New bumper time. Alright, step number one, gotta get the plastic off. This is Big Bend, so plastic. The other ones will have metal, depending how high up your trim level is. Just a few bolts, 1, 2, 1 on the back, same on the other side. That'll come right off. Okay, so once you get the bottom off, these little rubber things around the hooks, just pull them, they'll come off, maybe. Little hooks to keep them in there. Next step, if you have a license plate cover, take it off, 2 screws into your body there, and then these side pieces, you just give them a pull, and that opens it up to get the bolts to remove the bumper. One last step before you pull the bumper off itself is get underneath, and one on each side. You have to disconnect your fog light wiring, which is right there. You just squeeze the one side and it pulls out, and same thing on the other side. And then once you pull the bumper free of the car, you're not going to be yanking out any of the wiring. And then once the 2 fog lights are disconnected, it's your 3 bolts here, 3 bolts here, 15 mils, and then this whole plastic bumper should come right off. Okay, once your 6 bolts are out, you can pull it right off. It'll hang itself on here, so you don't have to worry about it falling down. And luckily this one has the plastic bumper, so this thing will weigh less than nothing. Alright, one last harness was up top, driver's side, which plugs the wiring harness for the lights into your actual vehicle. So make sure you get that unplugged. Then metal plate, 2 bolts on each side, and then 4 of these little ones in the middle to get this metal piece off, because your wiring harness is actually run underneath that, and you need that to run your lights. So after you get that off, 4 bolts on each light, you can take them off, then it's ready to go onto the new bumper. This will be the new bumper going on the car from Warn Elite Series. It will have a winch eventually, but we're not doing that right now because the car will actually be going for a wrap, and it's just one more thing that'll get in the way while they're doing that, so we'll do that part later. But before we do anything else, we got the fog lights off of the old one, so we'll get them on the new one just so they're out of the way, won't get broken, and it's one less step we got to do later on. Alright, for your lights to connect to the other bumper, you need these brackets. They are a left and a right. It will sit on your vehicle passenger side like that, and you can see driver's side, we already got it bolted on, will be like that. Bolts, you use the little 10 mil bolts with a flat washer, and the locking nuts with the built-in washer. You can see the 4 holes in there, line up with the 4 holes in here, tighten it down, and you're done. Your bottom is this little gear here. That's to adjust the light, which way it points, so don't mess with that. It should be adjusted right from Ford already. You just bolt them down and you're done. One last thing before you put these on is the actual light itself goes behind the bracket. So the plastic piece that's the actual light housing is behind. And don't crank these down, they are lock nuts, you don't need them super tight because this is all plastic and it's very easy to break. So just snug them down and the lock nut will keep it from rattling. Alright, this is upside down in the video. This is the bottom of the bumper. You slide your bracket in, 2 bolts, medium-sized bolts with the lock nut again. Get it in there, it's a little bit tight. Slide this all the way down to the bottom side of the bumper, and that lines up the light in the middle of the cutout. To get the bumper ready itself, you have to remove this bracket behind here from Ford. There's little plastic nuts just hand tight behind here. Twist them off. Just those, keep them. There's one about right here. This one is just under, and then you can pull that bracket out. So once you get this little bracket out, that's what Ford has. These are your two parts that go up top. Long part goes out towards the wheel. That will be on this side. This part, same thing, will be on that side behind. Just like that, to hold it up, get it up there. And first things first, get your little plastic nuts back on, because these do have cutouts right here to line up with these. All right, once it's in, you can see everything's loosely in there. The one long one, you can see the hole inside here will sit through there. You can wiggle it through, just like that. Thread goes to the outside. Then you grab two more of your small ones, which are the same that you added the lights onto the bumper with. And they go down into there. And also one carriage bolt before you bolt this up goes on the bottom. That will be to connect the actual bumper itself. And tighten the top down, tighten these down, and that should be all you need to do. Once it's all tightened down, get your carriage bolt before you tighten it kind of centered with the cutout. Grab one of these, there's 4 of them, one for each one. Just get it started on the bolt, and then grab your deep socket and push. Slide it all the way to the top. And the last thing, this one doesn't have it because it's already lifted with 35s. If you haven't done that yet, you'll have your little crash bar here. It will be just 2 bolts in there that you'll have to take out, because once this bumper goes on here now, those get in the way, so that's got to go. Right before the bumper goes back on, you need your wiring harness in there. This is the part that clips back up here into the actual vehicle itself. Clip it into the lights. I ran it down here behind that bracket all the way across behind, same on the other side. Plug it back in. Get your other 2 carriage bolts in here. These 2 will be your factory bolts after. They will go here. Carriage bolt in here, along with the one that you put in earlier, which will go with the little lineup tab here. And the carriage bolts all have the black locking nut on them. Alright, next day the bumper is on. Ran into a couple small issues, but nothing too major. The biggest one being this top bolt here was not threaded properly for the thread on the bolt, so we had to kind of cross thread it all the way in. What I mean by that is this is the bracket that was behind there before. It's built kind of the same. They got 2 nuts welded on, and when we went to thread it in, this top one would not thread onto the bracket we put in earlier with the Warren bumper, so we had to force her in there, but it worked. It's all tight. Just get those 2 tight. This side worked fine, and then you just got to get underneath and put in the other 2 carriage bolt nuts along with the 2 on the bottom. And then to finish it off, you get little plugs, because this is a big bend model. You don't have to worry about all the sensors on the front, so they send you plugs. So if you do have sensors on yours, your sensors will go in the holes, and then they do send a little bracket for these 2 holes here and 2 little nuts and bolts. It'll put a bracket here with another little hole also for your sensor, and then you'll just have to run it all through and put them in. They also have 2 little holes on the bottom here in the middle. They also have plugs for that. I don't really know what those are for, but they are there. This is all for your winch eventually, which yes is going on, but we don't put it on yet because this thing is getting wrapped. So it will all be in the way. So it's safer just to wait till it's done. We'll throw it on later. And then the other thing, which we took a day to do, is it sits a little bit crooked. You can see the gap here is a little more than the gap there. So we took it off, and on a couple of times to see if it was something we did, but it's actually the brackets welded onto your frame. It's not the bumper itself. The only thing that sucks is with the bumper, you can't see now that the bolts are on, but the adjustment can only go side to side, not up and down. So basically, wherever these welded to your frame sit, once the bumper is set on there, you can adjust left to right, but not up and down. So you can't fill the gap or gain a gap on the other side. So we took it off, tried to adjust it, thought maybe it was the bracket behind here, but that only fits one way as well. So you're kind of stuck with what you got at that point. And last but not least is the plate underneath. You can't see it when you're standing close to the vehicle, but if you go underneath, because this was the big bend, it comes with the plastic underpiece. Your skid plate, it's plastic, not metal. They don't give you a part. You can see the hole here is where it used to screw into the vehicle. Now the bumper's in the way, so you can't get it back in there without trimming it. We haven't done that yet. Might order a metal one to go underneath just to fit better with the bumper, but it holds. It doesn't flap around. It's kind of sandwiched in between your old tow hook and the bumper, but if you want, you can trim that and try to tuck it up underneath and just try to make it look a little better. From the side it looks not too bad. From the front, you don't, like I said, you don't notice it unless you're standing, but it is something to keep in mind. Your plastic skid plate will not button up to the worn bumper properly. So there you go, with a bumper, a lift, some bigger wheels, some side steps, turns into a total different vehicle. The only thing that might be added on is the rear bumper, if we can find one that works well. I know a lot, because it's an off-road thing, they eliminate the place to put your license plate, which is a pain in the butt because obviously you need that. But other than that, this one is almost done. We will do the winch eventually, and of course the wrap is coming in a couple more weeks, and she will be all set and one of a kind.